Whoever said the Wranglerstar subscribers don't get what they want would be wrong. So many of you said, hey, we want to see how you made that octagon handle. This is the handle on the fire poker here that has a 1/4-inch taper in it and the 8-sided octagon, which works really well with kind of the square hand-forged old school look. So we're going to do that because I need another handle. So we're going to start with a piece of hardwood here. And this is a 1/8 by 1/8, just ripped on your table saw by, how long is it? How long is it? It is 8 inches long. 8 inches long seems to be just about right. So let's get to work. We'll do all this by hand using the old school tools. We use the bit brace. We use the number 4 Stanley plane. And well, let's just jump into it. One thing I've really learned the hard way about traditional woodworking is you need to take some time and to read your material. You have to look and see what you have before you get started. Power tools, they just power through everything and you don't know the difference. You're just removed from the whole process. But when I'm looking at this and I'm going to have to hand plane it, and it's a hardwood, I want to look what's going to make my job easiest. So we got a knot right there, right? So since we're going to do a taper, when I'm looking at things like that, let's orient it when we lay it out to do the least amount of work on that knot, because knots are really hard to plane, and we'll do more tapering down here. So this will be the fat part, this will be the skinny part. So just little things to consider. So let's start with our layout. Some of you commented on how it brought back memories of the old wood shop, you know, that maybe you had in high school when you heard this sound right here. When I heard that, I laughed. I thought, man, that is so true, because this vise, this Wilton vise I think was pretty much standard back in the day for most high school wood shops. So we had them in our high school, and I'll never forget that sound of that handle dropping like that. I thought that was kind of funny. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come in here with our combination square, and we're going to 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, be careful with tapers. A little goes a long ways, you know, and you won't want to leave enough room there, material there, because we got to drill a hole, so we have to have some strength. So we're coming in 1/8, and now before we round off our corners, we want to know exactly where the center of that is going to be, because we're going to have to drill a hole. We want it right down the middle, right? So before we knock those corners off, so if you want to find the center of anything square, you just go from corner to corner, like this here. Just make sure, take your time and match up those corners. Get them as close as you can. And where these lines, boy, my old eyes, I used to be able to see so good. Where these lines intersect is dead center. All that talk of working around the knots, and I put that on the wrong side. So I redid it on the other side. We want to be consistent here. All right, so we got to do a couple more marks, and then we can get started. So on the bottom end, we'll keep combination square set at that 1/8 inch, and we're going to line that mark up and with the corner there, flush with the corner, and this is going to give us reference points when we're planing, just like that. Boy, it is a cold, frosty day. We had a hard frost. We're well below 30 this morning. And the family is starting to come in. We're going to leave here today about 11:30 or so and pick up my father-in-law, Vinny. And then our Mrs. W's twin brother is coming in with his family they live in Amsterdam. Now the fun part. So make sure you're working with these hardwoods, the plane's got to be sharp. I think mine's still pretty sharp. I did shave the doors with it, but I sharpened it right before. It feels pretty sharp. So do you see that pencil line now? That's going to be a guide to us. Get closer and closer there. That will get a nice even taper. Getting close. Doesn't take long. A very enjoyable process, this. So there you can see we have the taper starting to form. That 1/8 inch, it doesn't seem like very much, but when you do 1/8 on both sides, you know, that's a 1/4. It looks really nice. Right down there into the line, just shaving that line till I just can't see it anymore, then stopping. So now that we're forming a taper, the vise will no longer hold the piece securely. So just use a little wedge like you use for an axe handle. Just have those in the bench right there, force those in there, and that a soft wood so it doesn't mar anything, and that will hold it nice and secure for you. A trick I learned from Paul Sellers is sometimes you'll feel your plane is starting to drag. When you're doing really heavy work, I've even had it heat up to the point where it was hot, is to put some lubricant on it. Now remember, the blade cuts from the front, so you never go this way, but you go from back to front. And just by wiping that on there, it changes everything. I mean, it's so slippery and it works so well. I keep this on a tin here to wipe down my tools when I'm done with it, and I use a Ballistol. I don't know what he uses. I like Ballistol because it's kind of a natural product. I love the way it smells. I didn't at first. Someone recommended it to me, but I use it for everything. I use it for guns and all types of stuff, but it's really handy just to have it in a tin here, in a rag. Keep it in there. That way you're not having to pour it out of the can and waste so much of it. But I'll just keep that here when I'm doing planing. And I mean, I wish you could feel the difference. I mean, it's like night and day. Night and day. Just effortless now. This so makes me so happy. I'm going to do it again. That's very, very enjoyable. I've been receiving a lot of personal messages from your wives and girlfriends about Christmas ideas for Christmas gifts for their honeys. And so what I might do is I might do a video, and I'll kind of pick out my top 10, some of my top 10 favorite things that I have worked with this year. I'll do like a real cheap, and maybe then some nicer things. I think I'll do that. I've done that before. I always like doing that. It's kind of fun. But every time I do that, there's always the as a Christian comment that comes up, reminding all of us that if we're celebrating Christmas, we're celebrating a pagan holiday. You know what the thing is about that? I don't think there's any real thinking people alive that believe that Christ was born at Christmas. I think we all know that. But there is a precedence for it. I think there's a precedence for it. I mean, I don't think it's a bit of a stretch, but there's many examples of when God had an ideal for people, what things he wanted them to do, and there were things that they wanted to do that he relented. Israel came to him and said, "Give us a king." Well, he warned them, I'll give you a king, but this is what will happen. Well, we still want a king, but he did it. And there were many examples. Nineveh is another perfect example. He was going, Nineveh, yet 40 days and Nineveh would be destroyed, but the people repented and changed God's mind. Many examples. Abraham changed God's mind and different things. And you know what? It's one thing if we're setting up a Christmas tree and worshiping it, bowing down to it. I don't think anyone's doing that. But I don't think it's a mortal sin for a family to come together and to celebrate Christmas and giving gifts to one another. I mean, you got to look at the big picture. I think it would be, can't speak for God, but I can assume that it's probably much more displeasing to him, people running around criticizing the others in the comments and publicly telling them what they're doing wrong. I think they should be looking to their own lives, looking to their own problems without worrying about the rest of us. If you're struggling with that idea of celebrating Christmas, keep it into perspective. But you know what? I really do think it's a tempest in a teacup. Ooh, that's nice there. One more. That is nice. Perfect. Now when we get to this fourth side, now that we've got tapers on both sides, we'll have to use 2 wedges. So just tighten the back of the clamp there. Set your 2 wedges in there, and we're good to go. I'll tell you what, the side effect of traditional woodworking with hand tools is, man, you get your buff on, you get in shape. This stuff, if I haven't done this for a while, when I come in the shop, I have to stop and take a breather every once in a while. I get so winded. Arms and shoulders are all tired afterwards. Let's take a look at don't lose your little wedges. If fall on the ground, you won't see them. Take a look at our taper. That looks good, doesn't it? That's an 1/8 inch on each side taper in 8 inches or so. See now why it was so important for us to put the cross hatches there to determine the center? Now we have them there. So now we're going to do we have 4 sides, we're going to make it 8 sides. So kind of like we did before, we use our combo square, and I'm going to use a 1/4 inch this time instead of an 1/8. And we're going to draw that line all the way, make it heavy because you're going to want to see it, like that. And we'll do that on all 4 sides, both sides. And this is going to make it very simple that we can plane down to. Now you may not want to do a 1/4 inch. You might want to have equal sides, or all 8 sides being exactly equal. But that's too complex of math for me. So I'm happy with seat of the pants. It turned out good. Okay, so we got that there. There's probably a better way to do this. I had never seen it done before, and it just seemed reasonable to me. I've never done this before. This is the second one I've done, but here is an item that is, to me, indispensable in the wood shop. A great gift idea if you have someone that does woodworking, because we have a problem here. So now that we are putting 8 sides on our handle, we can't clamp like this in a vise, on a diamond pattern like that. It'll roll, it'll never work. And this is something that I have been using now for almost all my tool handles, axe handles, anything, because it's nice and long. And you clamp it in your vise, and then you put your stock in here, or your billet, clamp it in there. It's wonderful for handles. It's really strong, it's plastic, it doesn't mar the wood. And there's just nothing better. It works so good. Right there. Isn't that nice? So now we have our lines, and we're gonna start shaving. And we're gonna shave down to our lines. Now, to start easy, it'll feel like the plane's not doing too much, but it is. And then you're watching those lines from on top here, and you're adjusting the angle. And the lines help you not to make any mistakes. So I'll work the distant tip down there first, and then kind of work back. Now, it looks like I might be going back and forth on the hand plane, but I'm actually not. I'm actually very lightly releasing it on the backstroke. So, the plane is cutting well, very sharp. Now, adjust that angle. All right, I'm down to the lines. I really do love this clamp. I'm going to put this will be in my top 10 of Christmas gifts for your man or woman. It could be the other way around. Sorry, I don't want to be. No one wants to get the label of sexist on here. So it's just that when oftentimes I get some backlash from the very small percentage of ladies who watch the channel. Guess what percentage it is? Male versus female. 96% male. So the channel primarily is geared definitely towards men, and it proves that in the stats, but I sometimes forget that there are ladies that watch it also. I don't mean to offend. Whoops, that wasn't quite tight enough there, or I didn't set it high enough. But that's a nice thing, right? There's a perfect example. I've spent hours and hours on my hand plane on those irons. If that were a metal clamp, what would have just happened? But the fact that it's heavy plastic, I think it's plastic covering steel, no problem. That's the beauty of one of the most beneficial parts of that. I'm not getting that tight enough. There we go. Of that plastic clamp. Just delightful. So how's that look? That's pretty good, isn't it? I think it looks nice. You know, one of the most pleasing shapes to the human hand is an octagon. Many of the best old traditional axe handles and tool handles were octagon. Even hammers. I've got an old plum finish hammer with the original handle on it that's an octagon. It feels so good. Those marks on there, these facets, these points, bite into the skin of the hand, to the fleshy part of your hand, and give you a great purchase and strength, but not a discomfort if it's the right diameter. It's something when you grab it's very pleasing. And when I showed Mrs. W the first one that I made, she grabbed it, and the first thing she says is, "Ooh, that feels good in my hand." And that's kind of a natural comment there. Well, we ran out of time. Mrs. W came into the wood shop and informed me that it was time to leave to go pick up the family at the airport. So, well, there's quite a bit more to this. We'll do the facets and the whole, and of course share stories and my personal philosophy for what that's worth. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next video.